Hello, everyone. I'm Denise, also known as DM Cross of CrossWorks. And today, my guest is Michelle M. Brown, who is the author of My Life Isn't Perfect, but My Testimony Is. I don't look like what I've been through. I love that title. So, Michelle, you and I met at Laurel College Center's first annual book fest in Maryland. It's hard to believe it was only just a month ago. This month has gone so quickly. But I wanted to know,
Yeah.
were you born and raised in this area?
No, I wasn't. I was born in the small town. Well, actually, I was born in Dunn, North Carolina. That's where the hospital was. And I grew up, part of my life, I lived in Irwin, North Carolina, which was probably maybe 10 miles from Dunn. And then I'd say for the last maybe, let's see, 13 all the way up till 19, 6 years. I lived in Bun Level, North Carolina, which was like, like how we have Temple Hills and Oxon Hill and that that's kind of how it was. But of course, it's more rural area. Yeah.
Mhm.
But
So,
oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say I moved here. Well, I left North Carolina at age 19 and I came here for a little while, probably a few months. And then I had got married, and my husband, he was stationed in New Jersey, so we lived in New Jersey. But for the most part, I've spent most of my life here in Maryland.
mhm. Now, you're also a singer-songwriter, but I'd like to talk to you about what led you to your books and stories. So, what kind of stories did you read when you were a child?
Oh man, I used to read Mother Goose nursery rhymes. And of course, I mean, growing up, we were very religious. So for the most part, my grandmother she'd have me read the Mother Goose nursery rhymes and the Bible. However, when I was going to school, I would read little stories, that kind of thing. Cat in the Hat, you know. But as I got older, of course, I used to like reading Langston Hughes. I liked reading Edgar Allan Poe. I used to read poems by Emily Dickinson, but I also like Maya Angelou, you know. Um, and as a teenager, I was reading like Harlequin romance, the Harlequin romance novels, and of course, I loved Essence magazine, Ebony magazine.
I like that you added magazine there because very few authors that I have interviewed, in fact, I can't, you're the first one who's ever
Hmm.
mentioned magazines. That's writing too, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh
Hmm.
yeah. So and a lot of us actually strive to be part of the magazine writing world.
Hmm.
So now you said some of the influences that you had as a teen. What about nowadays? Who is influencing you?
Nowadays, Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama. And honestly, even though she's this person here, she and her husband wrote a book. And of course, she's not one of those literary folks, but I liked her book because it's Tamla Mann and David Mann. I really liked the lessons that they taught in their book. And what was the name of their book? Us Against the World, I think. It's the name
Mm.
of it. And they have an album called Us Against the World as well. So I like that. Um, I like right now I have all these other authors' books that I've like met. I want to read. Um, and there's one lady in particular, Lori Wood. I met her in Miami at the Reader's Favorites award ceremony. And her story is similar to mine, but she didn't have a heart transplant. But at the same time, the way she wrote her book was totally different from the way that I wrote mine. And hers seems to be more like something that It is faith-based for sure, but it seems like more of something where you actually read it in your taught lessons. Whereas when I wrote mine, I wrote it about my story, but people can learn from what I wrote about. I wasn't really writing it to say, okay, I'm teaching, this is a teaching, I'm teaching you a lesson or anything like that. It was just, I'm just sharing it. And for the most part, when I started writing it, well, before I started writing it, when I had the idea that I wanted to write it, it was more being cathartic for me, like therapy for me, because I had held in a whole lot of um, unhappy memories and that kind of thing. And I said, well, I'm just going to start writing. I'm going to write about what I know I've been through, and I'm going to write about the good times as well as the bad times. There's some funny things in there, some tearjerker moments in there, kind of thing.
So, I just wanted to know before you go into more detail about
Mhm.
My Life Isn't Perfect, did you write anything before? Had you written even anything as far as school, personal memories, diaries, anything like that before?
I did used to write diaries, but I probably threw all of that stuff away. But I used to write all the time because as a teenager, um, like, and this is part of this is in the book, but as a teenager, I was like, I had a hard time because my grandmother had died. I was 13 years old, and I moved into the home of someone else because my grandfather remarried. And so I felt alone a lot. So I was writing all the time, just
Mm.
writing, writing, writing. And it was kind of frowned upon based on how much I was writing. It was like, oh, she's writing again, that kind of thing. Yeah. So yeah, I used to do that. And I used to like to try to write poetry because they had us doing that in school. And I actually did write a poem for Mother's Day. I think I did put it in my book. I did include that in my book. But I wrote the poem. And the funny thing about this poem is I wrote it and I printed it on this beautiful paper. And I sent it to, instead of sending cards, and I sent it to all the mothers that I wanted to send it to, even those who were not mothers, but they were mother figures. I sent it to them. And I had sent it to my aunt. And I hadn't heard anything more about it until my aunt passed away. And when we went to the funeral, in the program, there was my poem. And I was like, wow, my poem
Wow.
is in here. And I told my cousin, I said, I didn't know you used my poem. And it didn't bother me. I was honored, but I just didn't, my thought was, wow, you thought it was, nice enough that you wanted to include it in this program. And so I said, oh, I hadn't even published that poem. She said, well, it's published now. But she was like, I didn't know. She said, I did not know you wrote that. She said, I didn't know where it come from. I just liked it and I put it in there.
Mm, that's beautiful. That really is. So now tell us about what led to you writing this book.
Well, again, it was cathartic for me. And then because at the time I wrote it, I think I was in my early 50s. And it was like, wow, I need to write about everything that I've experienced and write about how I was blessed through all these experiences. Even though at the time I was going through certain things, I didn't feel like I was being blessed. But there's a song that people sing that says, when I look back over my life and think about all the things that God has done for me, that's kind of where I was with that. I really need to talk about this, and people need to. I felt like it was a need for people to be able to hear my story, not so much for me, but for them. Although I was writing just to kind of unleash everything, but I was like, after I started reading it, I'm crying through it. I'm like, really, this could help someone because people that may have not had the courage to come out and say what they're feeling, they may have felt some of the same things that I felt. And I was like, this would be great for them, for me to give them some sense of hope. And then possibly they could find their own voice and tell their own stories.
So you jumped ahead to my one of my next questions is what did you want people to get out of it? But can you tell us in a little bit more detail, was there one instance in particular that said, now I need to write?
Yeah. Um, I had got to the point where I was questioning more about my mom because my mom passed away when I was 3 years old, and she had heart failure, from what I was told. And of course, I experienced some of those same things myself. I was diagnosed with heart failure, and so I wanted to tell a story about what happened to me, you know, in my childhood, and how I was able to navigate through all of that, and how that impacts me to even today. And the main thing that I wanted to talk about was the healing. And when I first started writing, I was thinking healing as it relates to my heart. Although I was diagnosed with heart failure, I still considered myself as healed because I was able to live a normal life, go work out, work a regular job like everyone else. I wasn't bound. So I still felt like I was healed. So I really wanted to talk about the healing. But the healing was not just physical for me. The healing was also mentally and emotionally because of everything that I had experienced. And I'm like, really, I'm really doing okay, you know?
Hmm. So now, after you've written the book, what did you do
Mhm.
to get it published? And why did you also decide on an audiobook?
Okay. Well, to get it published, I was working with my cousin who she also had written a couple of books. So I just went to Amazon. She told me to go use Amazon Kindle publishing service. So that's what I did. I started it out. I did an ebook first, and then once the ebook was done, I pretty much did it all within a few days. Um, Published the ebook, then published the paperback because it was pretty much the same work. And she had done it before, so she had formatted it for me. So all I had to do was kind of upload it. The hardest part I think was trying to get the cover together because they have these. They're not as strict as I think Ingram Spark, but still, it was trying to get the cover together.
Once you got
And as far
the,
as
go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
Mhm.
you go ahead.
Oh, as far as the audiobook, I did that this year. Someone had told me, actually, it was my hairdresser, had told me probably about 2 years ago, you should you should make this an audiobook. You really should. And she was like, just go to Audible, look it up, whatever. And I looked it up at the time she told me, and I don't know, something discouraged me from doing it. I guess because I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. And so I wound up going into the hospital and everything, having my surgery. And when I came, after a year or so being home, and I thought about it and I said, let me start doing some of these things that I was going to do or that I was discouraged from doing, and I'm going to do it now. So I decided to go ahead and pursue it and just got it done. I had to go through like audition folks. I had to write a small little script. And this particular person, that when I wrote my script, I said, well, I want the person to be able to sing. And that was another thing because I thought, well, if I could have someone sing, they could really articulate what I'm trying to articulate in the book. Because in some parts of the book, I think at the very beginning, I'm writing out how I sounded in a particular song. And, I wrote the words the way I was singing them. And I did that on purpose because I wanted to articulate that. But I was like, if someone could sing this, they could really articulate what I'm trying to convey here.
Mm.
So, and then the other part of it was there are people that say, well, I don't read. I'd rather listen. And I said, well, if I do this, then maybe that'll open the door for more people to be able to hear the story and be blessed by what they hear.
Yeah, very, very good. Wonderful. So I know you mentioned the kind of things that you wanted to have readers get out of the story. They maybe they can learn something from it. Maybe they can understand their experience. Maybe they had similar experiences and now want to
Mm-hmm.
have somebody else listening to somebody else's voice, listening to your voice. They can help them get their voice into it. And this is a really wonderful thing. Do you have any other stories that you think you'd like to write?
Well, for the most part, the next I've already started writing it, and I'm going to write about my transplant journey. Oh, I'm going to write about what led up to it, and then what I've experienced after having transplant. Yeah,
That
that's
is
what I
so,
want to write about next.
it's unusual. I saw an interview that that you had where you talked about that journey as opposed to the journey that's in this book that we're discussing now. And also, while we're doing this, maybe I should just go to your
Hmm.
YouTube channel and show
Hmm.
people that you have this transplant journey on YouTube that you want to share. Let's see if I can do this. Are you seeing it? Oh, oh,
Yes.
I hope you are. Okay, so yeah, folks, this is Michelle M. Brown's page. I love that you have the M in there. Is M for Marie by any chance?
Yeah, it is Maria.
It's Maria. Yeah, the M
It's
in my name
Maria.
is Marie. So yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm just taking a guess, right? And
Yeah.
here are all your videos doing that hoop girl. You look wonderful doing that.
Thank
Making
you.
after transplant, making what are these supposed to be?
Okay, I wanted to have a vegan take on salmon cakes. So
Ah,
that is actually heart of palm with
oh,
chickpeas.
oh, oh, well, that's interesting. I don't see that very often. So definitely take a visit over here. I already subscribed, as you can see, right? There you go.
Uh-huh. Thank you.
And I love the hula hooping more than anything else. I wish I could. I guess I'd have to try to start all over again before I can before I get up to where you are. Well, how many can you do without stopping?
Well, I have been able to do as 45 minutes, but I have to keep doing
45
it. But
minutes.
yeah, I used to see this. The funny thing about hula hoop is I didn't do it as a kid. I was 40 years old when I learned how to hula hoop.
Oh my goodness. No, when you said 45, I thought you were going to say 45 turns, like, hoops before
No,
in other
minutes.
words, like, you made it go 45 times around. And you're telling me
No,
45
I'm talking
minutes.
minutes. Yeah, I
Girl.
have. But you know, I don't know. I was in a Zoom class, and the lady that taught the Zoom class, she said she was gonna teach a hula hoop class. And she was like, do you want to learn? And I was like, I don't know, maybe I'll try it. And so she made my hula hoop, my first hula hoop. And she literally like taught me in the parking lot at the community center how to do it. We were standing by her car, and she was showing me how she was moving her hips and her feet. And I was watching her feet. And she was like, "You want to try it here?" I was like, "No, I'm gonna go home and try it." So I was like, "Okay," I'm watching her feet and I'm kind of counting the steps. And I was like, "Okay, I can do this." So, but when I first started, I went to class and I would hoop for maybe a second or two, and the hoop would drop on the floor. And so I'd bend down and pick it up. And they were like, just keep going. And that's what happened.
See, if that were me, it would drop and keep dropping and keep dropping and keep dropping. But I want to thank you so much for spending some time with me, telling us about your book and letting us know about your experiences. Just again for everyone, and I love the title again. My life isn't perfect, but my testimony is I don't look like what I've been through. I want you to say it in your voice because that's if I say
Okay.
it, it's like I don't have the experience. You say it.
Okay, I probably have a little attitude with it. My life isn't perfect, but my testimony is. I don't look like what I've been through.
Thing. It made all the difference in the world. People will run out and get it now. So, Michelle, thank you so much for spending some time with me this evening. This was really, really wonderful, and I appreciate you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate the opportunity. And, each interview, I feel like I'm learning more and more because, I used to didn't do these kind of things. And now it's like, oh, I'm interviewing because usually I'll just sit behind the desk and just do my little work, and I'm done. But I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.